Alright guys, welcome to Red's Resort. Today we're going to go over how I've been getting along with the Pimax Crystal Super VR over the last month. There are quite a lot of things to touch on. Also, Pimax in the interim has sent me out the OLED version, which was a rather small package containing the unit with the lens housing that slotted into the existing headset they had already sent. So I switched out to that quite early on, and I'll go over what the differences are there as well. Some very nice upgrades to be found on that front that may interest a few people. Obviously this updated review will be mostly centred around STAR-ZYWM, but I've been using the device with other games as well, and I've had a lovely experience overall. So we'll cover some of that. First off, let's talk some specs. It has a 90Hz refresh rate, which is nice when you can get it. Obviously, that's a bit of a stretch in STAR-ZYWM at points. It has a 116 degree POV on the OLED version, and they're both 3840 by 3552 per eyeball. Pretty impressive stats by any measure, but how have they stacked up over the last month? So to begin with, everything was new to me, so I was just blown away by everything that crossed my path. There was no real way I could judge things objectively. I was in 3D Wonderland basically. That extra dimension was such a new experience to me, everything just became fascinating, and I just spent hours walking around and looking at, into and around everyday objects. Now that that novelty has worn off a bit, how am I finding things now? I've noticed some things that are problematic, but for the most part overall it remains a very positive experience. And STAR-ZYWM performance can be pretty sketchy. I'm running a 4090, 32 gigs of RAM and an AMD 7800X3D. In some of the landing zones I can feel a difference, and can often see dips to around 30 frames, which for VR is pretty bad, but it doesn't seem to affect me too negatively, to be honest. What's worse is I've been having a lot of freezing or hanging issues recently. I can only guess it's related to STAR-ZYWM eating 30 of the available 32 gigs of RAM these days. Other than that though, it's as you would expect in all other areas of the game, and you can trade off the headset's insanely high resolution for better performance where necessary. I found setting the virtual res to around 80 was a good all-round balance between frames and clarity. Generally though, I found the on-foot experience, whilst tolerable and interesting, falls short over its counterpart, the flying experience. 3D certainly adds a lot to on-foot, but there's a level of jankiness there hindering the whole experience. Your head is constantly being disconnected from your shoulders and needing reset. When using FPS weapons, there are several problems as well. In the game right now, you have to physically line up your shot along the barrel of the gun. That sounds fun, and I thought so too, and actually enjoyed the challenge and the extra second or two it would take to properly line up the sight. But it doesn't really react like it should in real life, mainly because your head can move through the stock of your gun, so there's no backstop or easy resting point, just you constantly trying to shoot a moving target, the NPC, with another moving target, your eye, whilst holding another moving target, the gun. Lining up all three, it does not feel good at all. And there's a few things you can do to get around this. You can go into the big theatre mode when on foot, or just when you enter combat, so that the game functions as normal, just as it would on a 2D big screen, except it remains inside the headset. Or you can add laser pointers to your weapons and try and keep your engagements to a certain range where you can still be effective when fired from the hip. And believe it or not, the depth information being fed to your eyes actually allows you to function this way fairly well, if you're like me and refuse to go into the theatre mode. The fact that only one eye can sight the weapon effectively might be an issue for other people as well. It didn't really bother me at all, as I've always been able to sight targets with both eyes open in real life with some practice anyway. In fact, I welcomed that part. So on foot, combat is a bit of a jumble, and I've tried some of the settings but they didn't seem to lock me to the sight like I would expect. So I'm not sure if they're just not implemented yet or if I'm doing something wrong, but as far as I know there's no way to lock aim down sight into a fixed position. Everything else is relatively fine though, and the details that they've added are just fantastic. Like the Mobi glass for example. This thing looks so cool. It's just the right distance away and the right readability. It honestly has never really felt like something projecting from my wrist. It's always just been a menu screen. But in VR, that is straight up projecting from your wrist. and it's all still working for the most part, and it's just been a joy to interact with. But where things really shine is the cockpit. This is still just the best thing that's ever happened to this game, or to VR even. Weeks later, I'm still blown away by every cockpit I step into. Something about the whole setup with VR just nails it perfectly. And it's definitely a feeling thing. I've been trying to break it down into words for this video, but it's just impossible really. It's like there's a higher level of participation in the ship. Like if something was to fly or shoot right at you, you would flinch. Whereas in 2D, your brain already knows it's not real. There's a barrier there that gets crossed. Not completely, but a little more than before. And still, as before in the last video, every little detail in the cockpit just comes to life like you've never seen it before. It's a very engaging experience, and combat is just sublime. I don't even know why, but I am far more confident and precise. You know that thing where you're chasing down a target, but you need to watch your speed because you can't really gauge how fast they're moving or if they've stopped. So you fly more guardedly because you don't want to collide. That's pretty much gone. I just don't have that issue anymore. I feel like I'm in perfect control, and often there's this feeling that the enemy is just bumbling prey. It's a weird jump. I've yet to catch some PvP, and my guess is that will go very far in the other direction, where the incoming onslaught of projectiles might leave me scarred for life. But, you know, I'm looking forward to it nonetheless. So yeah, everything cockpit side is very pleasing and still no complaints really. Actually, there are one or two things that are still not up to speed. You still can't zoom in. All zoom is disabled, in fact. Both the precision fire mode and just the general view zoom. My guess is that there's an issue with either the tech there or with people throwing up. Other than that though, I'm still happy as a pig in poo. So overall then, there's a lot that can enhance your gameplay, and there's a couple of things that would de-hance, but with workarounds, which, let's face it, sounds par for the course for anything Star Citizen related. Elsewhere though, I've been playing a few other games, mostly Half-Life Alyx, and as you would expect, the experience has been flawless.
The button. I'm going to press it. Boop.
Alex,
Holy shit. What's in this wee box, mate? Is this where you keep your sweeties? Oh, it was an accident. That's no chicken. Explain! Stop it, man. Oh, I got the bonk stick. I got the bonk stick for you, my friend. Oh, a book. A book. I'm on my bed. That's on my bed.
Been having a great time. I don't have anything to compare the Pimax to other than a flat screen TV, so I can't really judge in that regard, but it's quite difficult to see how it could become any better given the technology we have at this point. It's eye-wateringly good, and I'm still just in love with the new and novel ways you can interact with the environment and testing the rules of the physical world. I got to the second or third level and bumped the difficulty all the way up because I want the most visceral and long-lasting experience I can drain from this game. As I mentioned at the start, the Pimax did send me out the OLED optical engine, which just slots into the headset, replacing the Crystal Super one that's in there. There are some differences I'd like to share. The first and most obvious one is going to be the contrast. It's obvious to say because it's OLED, but you have the richer black that you normally would associate with that tech. And that can really pop in space, especially in the boundaries around a planet as it merges with space. As we all know, space is not as black as some of us would have liked it to remain everywhere else. And that's the primary difference between the Pimax Super Crystal and the OLED 8K. Everything else is pretty much the same. Some minor differences in pixel per degree and FOV, but nothing major, as you can see here. But there were some interesting side benefits that were altogether unexpected. The lenses were concave, meaning they bent away from your eyes. This just made them a lot more comfortable to me instantly. A lot of the time with the Super Crystal, the lens is so close that you can feel your eyelashes brushing against it. Whilst that's tolerable for the most part, it does add to a sense of discomfort, and over time the oil from your lashes will smear the glass. No biggie, but a little improvement win for the OLED lenses. But that has other knock-on effects as well. That extra space meant there was more air to circulate, making your eyes feel comfortable for longer. Also, when you first put on any headset, there's a couple of minutes where your lenses steam up because of the temperature difference between the lenses and your face. This goes away as the lenses adjust to your body temperature. I found this was improved by this cavity as well. So nothing major, but a few quality of life things that were welcome. One negative might be that the colour temperature on the OLED was slightly warmer than the Crystal, although it was more to my preference by far, to be honest, and actually added to the comfort somehow. My eyes felt cozier, less strained, and normally if I'm ever prone to reshade a game, I will usually add a bit warmth, so this suited my tastes. I originally thought there was more aberration on the OLED to begin with, and it wasn't until I switched back to the other unit I realised that wasn't the case at all. In fact, it was quite the opposite, and I think it was maybe just the extra warmth playing tricks on me. Out of the two though, I'll never be switching back. Better colour depth paired with the extra comfort was a solid win, to be honest. I made a video a while back with some optimised settings for STAR-ZYWM so that you can get the most performance out of your headset. Be sure to check that out if that's something that might help. And that's it really. That's your Pimax Crystal Series update. A big thank you to Pimax for sending me out these lovely units for review and testing and so on. I have been as truthful and as granular as I possibly can. If you have any questions, be sure to ask. Check out the links below if you have any intentions to pick up one of these, and you'll get a small discount, and I'll hopefully get to keep these for a little longer. And I'll also leave you with this little nugget for the road. 07 guys.
You guys did a great job just kicking out VR, and how is there more coming for VR in Star Citizen?
Yeah, there's definitely more. I mean, so for a start, I mentioned it before, but Squadron will be fully VR supporting too.
Oh wow!
So you can play that, which is going to be pretty cool.